Welcome to Hope with Jonathan. I'm Jonathan Traylor, a kidney transplant recipient. Based on my near-death experience with kidney failure, we now spotlight kidney patients' story, giving them a platform to express their personal journey with battling kidney disease, kidney failure, dialysis, waiting for kidney transplant, and much more. We share stories of hope right here on the Hope with Jonathan podcast. Hope with Jonathan podcast is a Hope Media production. Never let hope become a memory. Hope with Jonathan podcast is a Hope Media production. Hey guys, on this week's episode of Hope with Jonathan, I have an exciting guest for you, Erica Nikolic. Erica is doing amazing things in the kidney disease, chronic illness community by featuring different ambassadors and kidney warriors and people who have battled and overcome great obstacles in their life. And she has a show over on Instagram called Change Makers that she hosts on Monday evenings. If you're not already checking that out over on Instagram, you need to check it out. Again, guys, that's Change Makers with Erica Nikolic. And she's incredible, guys. She's interviewed. I've been on her show. There's been a lot of different people that's been featured on her show that are incredible. And she's an incredible individual, incredible advocate for organ donation and kidney disease and people who are suffering and living with dialysis and in need of a living kidney donor. And she's got a documentary. Hopefully it will release pretty soon. We talk about it inside of this podcast. And it's an incredible documentary. I actually play a feature and some clips of it inside of this interview, and we discussed her reasonings of why she wanted to do a documentary on organ donation and people living with kidney disease and living on dialysis and awaiting a kidney transplant. We also talk about disparities within the urban community and people of color who suffer with issues within the kidney transplant community regarding receiving kidneys, and or anyone that's receiving any sort of transplant, whether it be kidney or lung or heart. There are discrepancies and issues amongst the organ donation world with regards to race and creed and things like that. So we have to look at things like this, and we have to talk about it. And we talk about it inside of the podcast as well. And if you're anything like me, you know that we don't agree about that. We don't think Hope with Jonathan does not support anything that doesn't show love to anyone out there. I do not believe that anyone should ever be withheld or put to the back of the line based upon their race, color, creed, sexual orientation, no matter what the demographic is. No one should suffer with organ failure and be placed in a certain demographic when it comes to transplant. And so, Hope with Jonathan, that's our stand, is that we believe everyone should have a fair chance, and we believe that everyone should have a fair play across the board, not only with transplant, but in everything, in every aspect of life. And that's been our stance from day one, and that's how I was raised, and that's how I'll continue to believe until the good Lord takes me home. But there are discrepancies, and there's things that happen, amongst the transplant community, whether they want to talk about it or not. It is a kind of it is a touchy subject, but it is things that, need to be discussed amongst the community. If we don't talk about it, then it's just going to continue. So, but with Erica, man, like I said, she's an amazing advocate for organ donation and raising awareness. And like I said, guys, she's got that show over there, Change Makers, on Monday nights. Check her out on Instagram, Change Makers, Erica Nikolic. Hope you guys will find this podcast informative. It's an awesome podcast. Really had a lot of fun with Erica. She's incredible. Go check her out. Again, guys, check us out, hopewithjonathan.com. If you haven't already, hit subscribe on that YouTube. What are you waiting for? We love to have you inside of our family. Thanks again, guys, for all your support. God bless you. Stay safe out there. Remember to spread love to everyone. It's free. And remember to take care of your kiddies. God bless. This is Jonathan.
Thanks for the intro. I loved it.
Oh, you're welcome, Erica. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And so, I've been on your show, the Change Makers and stuff, and I was like, you know what? One day I've got to have Erica on the show. She's just doing great things, and I seen you just interviewed one of my good buddies, Will Porter, on your show. So, and many others.
Right, and he was a nomination by PJ, so that was PJ's nomination. Who was your nomination?
I think I either gave you Will's at one, and then maybe Philip. Was it Philip?
Okay, yeah. I think a lot of people recommended Philip because Edward recommended Philip too. So I think maybe you recommended Philip, and then Philip recommended you and Will's. So I think I got you from. Well, yeah, he gave me a couple. So
a shout out to Philip Harris Jones Jr. and to Farrell Cook with the Second Chance podcast, and they're doing great things in the community, kidney community, and just transplant organ donation community. They're great influencers, and they're good buddies. Matter of fact, we're partnering up again, going to do another session of dialysis. It's going to be a conference on dialysis. And we'll be doing that soon in February. So really exciting to be working with those guys. Great people. So, but Erica, this show is all about you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, maybe if you got children, family, and that type of stuff.
Well, my name is Erica. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised. I'm currently here now under I don't know how many feet, inches of snow. So it's very nostalgic because I remember, now my son is going to school and, having to get up in all of that snow and go to school. So, sending him to school and all the snow is, kind of nostalgic. So, but I have a 5-year-old and my journey to making films was really just something that was always in me. From a young age, I was writing stories. I always loved to read. So it started with the love of books and, it segued into a love of story, which segued into a love of, just culture and then social justice and activism. So, film is one great way where you can do all of that. You can have a lot of all of those things combined into one film, so I felt like that was the proper medium for me to work in order to sort of satiate that desire to tell stories, that desire to move the needle on issues in the community and still be artistic.
Sure. Yeah. And so At what point did you decide that that was going to be like the driving thing in your life, that you wanted to maybe get involved with doing like film and all that type of stuff? When did it actually hit you?
Well, it hit me while I was in law school. And it's funny because when you decide, when you go to into a professional career and you've always had this sort of ache to do
Hmm.
something, because I started in music. Music was my first, very first love. And I wanted to be, to sing. And, writing and reading was just sort of a part of, school. That's just something you did with school, but I always did it casually. But the goal was to be a singer. And,
Hmm.
somewhere along the line, I convinced myself that, I didn't want, I was in Detroit and, this is funny. I was in this lounge and this is very bizarre. And I saw this woman, she was, older and, and she, no disrespect to this woman or whatever. But it was just sort of this moment where, she looked like she had been drinking a lot, like her lashes were kind of falling off. And it just made me feel like, oh, maybe this isn't where I want to sort of be,
Hmm.
in the future. I don't want to end up, like heavily drinking, because when you're in a bar, that's what you
Hmm.
do. You end up drinking and you
Hmm.
end up staying up all night. And that's just what happens with musicians. That's just the life that you live when
Hmm.
you're doing music and doing shows. You just end up abusing your body and just, you know, getting into a lot of things that come with the night, So
Sure.
I just kind of felt like, oh, well, maybe, that wasn't for me. But while in law school, I, you know, couldn't go out. So, I would leave the library really, really late. And then there was Blockbuster. So I go to Blockbuster. So you know how long ago this was, right?
Hmm.
There was Blockbuster on the corner, and I would just start taking out films. And, I'd have me a nice big stack of films that I would watch, because there was no Netflix. There was not even the little red thing.
Right.
What's the red thing that's at the
Yep.
gas station now? There wasn't even that.
Red box. Red
Red.
box. Yeah.
So, I had, so I get a big stack of movies, and I just started watching them. And I believe I ran out of movies to watch. So I started in the foreign titles. I watched everything from every single foreign film from Switzerland and, France and Italy. And, and I just sort of got the bug, and
Yeah.
just started going
Yeah.
deeper and deeper and deeper into film theory, into the concepts of, art. And because I love photography already, so then I just was whoa, wide open, and following directors, and finding symbolism in the art. And
Yeah.
it just, my
Yeah.
whole eyes just lit up with, how films could be used to promote so many different messages.
Yeah.
So that really was my first launch into getting bitten by the bug, because then it was like, oh, telling stories. And then that whole passion of loving books and stories came back to me. And so then I thought, oh, okay, this is gelling. This is all making sense.
Sure.
And yeah, so then I just started to learn the craft of making a film, uh,
Wow.
and that's
Yeah.
how it started.
You sound a lot like me. Like I was born in the '70s. I was '77. I grew up in the '80s, and then
Yep, same here.
in in the
Mhm.
'90s, I was a teenager, and I went through high school. I graduated in '95.
Yep.
But I watched a lot of VHS, and then we progressed to
Mhm.
DVD, and then eventually got into Blu-ray, which come later on. But I remember sifting through like movies at like one store called Red Draft Video was like Red
Mhm.
Draft Video. There was a Blockbuster. God, there were so many different movie places, and I would go. We would get like I'm telling my age for real, but we would have to actually rent the VHS player because we didn't own a VHS player, and so we had to rent the VHS player and then buy like or rent all the tapes. And I don't know. We used to get all kinds because we would like order a pizza over the weekend and have a bunch of
Mhm.
movies and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I remember doing all that, and I always loved film. I always like watch
Mhm.
a lot of film. I was really into mysteries and like murder mysteries and things like that. But I
Mhm.
watched a lot of comedy films and a lot of like '80s style films, like John Hughes type of films, things like that. So we have some things in common. I probably would have got along with you really well
Right.
as a kid. But
For
that,
sure.
no, that's awesome though, and that, and then now that my love of film kind of broke away from that. Now I like doing these live type of interview type things with
Mhm.
podcasting. So it's really interesting. But so let's talk a little bit about how you got involved with your project of Let There Be Life documentary. So what caused you to want to get involved in that?
Well, initially, when I started looking at the subject, it was more global
Mm-hmm.
um, interest. I had read a couple articles about the Black organ market
Mm-hmm.
and what was happening in Brazil or Mexico, and it kind of piqued my interest. And at the time, my mom, she was working on a board, the International Association of Organ Donation. It's now defunct. That was in um, Michigan, and she was on the board. And when I kind of was, just putting the idea out there to people that I knew, they actually started saying, well, your uncle passed. And that was the reason why he had passed. And from that moment, it's crazy. And this is how it's not discussed, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is, and uncle being my grandmother's brother, so my
Mm-hmm.
great uncle
Mm-hmm.
had two failed transplants. And she brought it to my attention that how he struggled, because by this time I had gone off to college and I hadn't been back home, and I really wasn't in touch with what was happening with the family. I've been abroad. And she told me that how he suffered. And he was one of my grandmother had 11 brothers and sisters, so he was absolutely one of my favorites. And from that moment of realizing that this may be something that I need to do for the community, I just did a hard pivot and just stopped researching or looking at anything global, especially as a first time filmmaker. Your budget, shooting in Brazil versus shooting in Detroit. I'm in Cleveland.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do the math. It would be much easier to shoot in Detroit. And so, and that's really how it came to be. I thought, all right, logistically, this makes more sense. And
Mm-hmm.
then I started to peel back the layers, the onion of that is organ donation and the topic. And I started to really dig into what people were experiencing and
Mm-hmm.
what exactly was the major public health crisis that is this organ shortage. So when I think back to when I started it, I really wasn't aware of what that was and how severe it was and how deeply rooted it ran in our community.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to play for our people that are watching right now, and all the folks that are watching. I want you guys to go over and check out the website. It's Let There Be Life Documentary. I believe it's .com.
Yeah.
That you guys can pull this clip from if you'd like to go over and get a little more information about. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip really quick, and then when we come back, we'll still be on the screen. But I'd like to play this clip for those that have never seen it before, and so that they'll have an idea of what this is all about. And so I'm going to go ahead and play that now, and then when we come back, I'll have a couple more questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Well, when I got hit with the illness, it just took away all my reference points. So it plays havoc with your mind and your body, So it took away my voice. The first time in my life I've ever been scared.
Well, I was diagnosed with it when I was 4, and I started dialysis 2007, so 2 years ago. To get a kidney transplant. food. I don't have to sleep on the machine all night. I can use the bathroom like other campers.
I just never thought about it too much. It ain't something that, run across your mind every day.
Well, I really not an organ donor. I really don't know that much about being an organ donor.
I figured I'd leave out with what I came in with.
I just don't want to right now.
It's kind of creepy and scary when you actually think about it.
That's probably those old Christian stigmas sticking with you, the body, the purification.
Who would it go to? This person be a good person? Like if you give somebody eyes or organs, what are you going to turn into?
Rich people are in cahoots sometimes with the ambulance, the EMS drivers and stuff like that. I don't want nobody to not give me the care that I need because they're trying to harvest my organs for somebody else wealthy or something.
After you pass, what they do is take your body and take all the organs that they need, and then after that they would just automatically cremate you and your family don't get you.
There's a lot of fear, misconceptions. So what we try to do is educate the community. And you find a lot in the minority community, but I find the entire community have the same misconception, and we just have more in one area than another.
We want to make sure that there aren't any loss of lives because somebody didn't think to say yes. Yes is a very powerful word, and so that's our mission.
Some people may say if it's your time, it's your time. But stuff happens to people, and it may not be his time.
You can be living through somebody else. Hey, I might donate my eyes and somebody be living through me. They'll be able to see.
Yo, make some noise for the house man. Come on, we're going to do it like this. We're going to do this for you, bub. Lenny.
You have to learn all over again how to walk, talk, how to survive and live with the disease. It's not going to get me down. I'm not going to be defeated. Every time I get up on stage, it's a plus, I find get people clapping and glad to see me back that other night because they know how much what I do means to me and who I am. It's just me.
To fight your war, and we come home with all the bad stuff.
Wow, that looks incredible. I like how it seemed like you had somebody from all kind of walks of life, different ages in there, and it looks amazing. Where can people find the documentary? Is it available yet?
Not yet. We are in post-production.
Post-production.
We are editing the film now. Well, I am editing the film now. So a lot of what's in the trailer was shot in it's okay, baby.
You got it.
Okay, thank you. A lot of what was shot in the trailer was in New Orleans. So it's shot in New Orleans, Detroit, and Chicago. So there are three major cities. And the cities also play a major role in it. They're also like a character in the film as well. So they play a huge role because each city has its own sort of life.
Yeah, it's got its own vibe, its own flavor. Yeah, I mean, New Orleans is kind of a book all about itself, and then you said Chicago as well.
Chicago, and each city has, it has its own issues, so.
Yeah, and then I noticed on there that at that time it said 29% of African Americans are waiting for a life-saving organ. Was that kidney?
A life-saving organ. These are kidneys. Kidneys. And
kidney.
Yes, and it could have been. I can't recall. This trailer was our first trailer. It doesn't include the third character either because there was a third character that that was added later on after we continued and we wanted to round it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's shot in Chicago and Detroit and New Orleans. In Chicago, they have a huge high violent crime rate.
Oh yeah.
And of course, in New Orleans, there's the food. So when you think about the numbers of people that are leaving this earth, and how they could be protecting themselves and their bodies. And so we also want to talk about, prevention. I mean, in the film, we can't cover, gun violence as well as, access to healthcare, as well as like nutrition. But these things, as you know, are all the things that lead up to needing an organ or ending up in a situation where you could be a potential donor. And as we're looking at an organ shortage, with so much violent crime, if there, not that we want there to be violent crime, but the fact that there is, and so many people aren't donors, there is a large number of
exactly. And you mentioned the word prevention, and as you know, type 2 diabetes, hypertension are the top 2 leading causes of chronic kidney disease. And it does affect the African American community largely because of, a lot of people have the type 2 diabetes, hypertension. I mean, it's across the board. I mean, you have African American, Hispanic, white people have it. It doesn't discriminate against, age, race, sexual orientation, anything. I'm referring to kidney failure, kidney disease. It doesn't discriminate against anyone. If you're type 2 diabetic, hypertensive, you can definitely fall into the lines of kidney failure really quickly. It doesn't take too long. I was walking around with high blood sugars and uncontrolled blood sugars and hypertension for a while, and then all of a sudden, boom, it hit me. And so you have to definitely be careful with that. But is that what you're trying to show light here, though? Is that in the documentary, is that with people you want to show prevention about dietary and things like that, or are you more focused on the organ donation?
Well, here's the thing: as you edit, you learn that you go in many different directions, and when I started the film, it was a lot about access to healthcare because this was shot right after Katrina. So a lot of what people were experiencing were closing down of hospitals, people with these chronic illnesses not getting their medications, not being followed up on. If you have a pain, if you're having swelling, not having anywhere to go to get checked out to see if that could be, leading to organ failure or which stage of kidney disease you may be at. So, that was a huge part of it. And so a lot of talking to the Department of Health and a lot of clinics that were, community clinics that were servicing the people and how they were overrun. So at that point, because this has been shot since, close now to 12 years, as the years have gone by, there have been, a lot of transitioning in terms of issues and what the film has covered. But what I realize is that this film, in its most powerful state, should represent the experience, right?
Sure.
The experience of the individuals, and prevention and all of that comes through it, through the stories. Theroux, who you saw in the trailer, he is a musician. We were just talking about that, and and he suffered child abuse, where he was abused and he wasn't nurtured, and issues like that will come up. It's not just people are turning to drugs and alcohol and abusing their bodies. There's a whole string of reasons, like little boys that aren't nurtured, who are abused in their homes, who don't value their life or themselves, end up treating themselves poorly. And then, of course, this is the chain where you end up at organ failure, end-stage renal disease. Yeah. So you look at all those things.
Yeah, you mentioned Katrina, man. I couldn't imagine being on dialysis and then, like, where do you go get treatment at that point? Is this mass pandemonium? They had people at the the New Orleans football
The dome.
the dome. Yeah,
Mhm.
they had people there, and they said bodies were just floating down down the street, and it was just, man. I mean, I just couldn't imagine, because dialysis is just, when you're on dialysis, it's like a whole nother world, because you're living on that machine, and you got to get to your treatment every other day, and then it's just, I couldn't imagine going through that nightmare. I mean, you're losing everything around you, and then you got to do dialysis, so that had to been so traumatic. I mean, just unreal. No access, you said, to like hospital care or getting your medications, and some patients unfortunately are not as engaged with their treatment. Some don't even know what type of medications are on or what their pills even look like and things like that. So it's crazy. That had to been hard to watch or to even deal with. I couldn't imagine that.
No, I agree. And, we went down to film 4 years after the storm. So this was the carnage of, a 4-year delay. And we were still shooting in the Ninth Ward. And it's just total, still chaos, just, wreckage everywhere, houses still, torn down. And so that was, at the time, that was really a huge part of the film. And what I realize now is that through each individual's experience, you will see all of that, because Theroux had to move to Chicago, in order to start doing dialysis. And so you'll see Theroux in Chicago for a little while as well throughout the film. And he even did a whole album called Theroux in Exile, because as a musician, he was no longer in New Orleans. He felt like he had been exiled. So
he had to express himself in a different manner there.
Exactly. So, he found solace in creating his art, like so many artists do.
What was the morale like of the people that you interviewed? What was their demeanor? What was their morale like while they were going through this process of living on dialysis and needing a life-saving organ as a minority? What was the morale like?
Oh, it was awful. When I say, asking the question, how are you coping? And, you'll see in the film exactly how traumatic it is to go from, living a certain life. And what Theroux admits is that even though it is traumatic, he felt like he was in the best shape of his life. Like, for the first time, he had actually, having that mortality bite and being face to face with death. That's when he really started taking care of himself. And he said, despite it all, he's now as healthy as he's ever been. He lost a ton of weight, and, he just looked great and was taking care of his health, but he mentally and emotionally, he was, very, very much struggling. And I think that mirrors the experience, even for the other patients who weren't associated with Katrina,
Yeah, I noticed that you had a young girl on there. She said she was 7 years old or 9 years old. How old was she?
9. She said she started dialysis when she was 9, but
9.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine the 9. I mean, you haven't even hit teen years yet, which teen years can be rough. I mean, I've interviewed people that said they started dialysis as a teenager, but I mean, that 9 years old, I mean, that's just such an impressionable age. Wow, that's incredible. Do you know anything about her story currently, how she's doing and things like that?
Well, you have to watch the film.
Yeah.
But she is 24 now.
24. Wow.
She's 24 now, and she just had a birthday, and she's living in Detroit. She moved around a lot, which, is really complicated when you're on trying to get on a list and get a kidney. So, you know, she was with the military family. So her stepdad was in the military. So there was a lot of moving around. So that is an issue as well. And a lot of that comes out too in her story about the struggles of, you know, just maintaining a position on the list.
What are some disparities that minorities face when they're needing a life-saving organ?
Well, you know, simply the wait time. You know, they tend to wait much longer, and you know, and that's just the reality of it. And you know, sometimes they don't even get an organ; they'll either wait or die. And you quickly realize that a lot of it is. I mean, there's so many factors, and when you try to pull out, you know, whether or not people are okay asking family members, whether or not people, whether or not family members. I mean, you talked about the I don't know, the usual suspects that lead to organ failure, such as high diabetes and high blood pressure, hypertension.
Sure.
You can't donate if you know if you're hypertensive, you know, if you have any of these chronic illnesses, and a lot of times African Americans are largely or disproportionately affected by these chronic illnesses. So that automatically slashes your donor pool like straight down the middle. And so it's a need to just overall overhaul of the health of the community, of individuals, of having those conversations within your family to make sure that you understand that, hey, you know, this is something I want to do, with the ultimate goal to be, you know, alleviating the organ shortage, right? If we have a public health crisis of organ shortage, how do we alleviate that? And just thinking about the how is, we have to start with not needing to get the transplant in the first place. But then when you have someone like Asia, you know, she had this is always the focal glomerular.
Oh, FSGS.
FSGS, and I'm dyslexic, so I never know where to put the G. I'm always like, this is FGS. Yes,
I got you.
Right, thank you. See, you're the expert.
It's cirrhosis of the glomerule, is what it is. Yep, it's a rough one.
And you can explain more about it, but here's the thing: she, you know, was 4, and it took them, you know, so many years to figure out what it was, you know, and they tried to keep her off of the dialysis, and, you know, it's just so many things. And it's not about, at that point, something that she's done, you know?
No, that's something that couldn't be controlled. The chronic kidney disease from type 2 diabetes, hypertension, that can be controlled by, you know, dietary choices and things like that. Unless you're a type 1 diabetic, some people are born with diabetes, you know, juvenile type 1. So, but you know, if you manage your diabetes well, and that's where dietary choices and being engaged with the, you know, dietitian, things like that, that's where that plays a role. Exercise plays a huge role. That was something that was missing in my life for a long time, and so those type of things. But one other question: do you think, and you answer this as honestly as you want, but do you think that politics and money? I mean, as you know, it seems like the whole world just revolves around business and money, and unfortunately, it's ugly, but sometimes it is, And do you think that there's an ugly side or a bad side of transplant?
Well, that's an issue that we were exploring. And when I probed experts about whether or not they thought, for example, that African Americans were less likely to be referred by their nephrologists for transplant. Sort of this, they're regulated to being on dialysis. Like, no one even told them that, a transplant was an option. That sort of thing. Or this whole conspiracy to keep people on dialysis. Because of, the money that's made from an individual being on dialysis. I don't know the exact numbers, but when you think about it, I just spoke to someone the other day, and she's in LA, and she said to me, well, I go in dialysis centers all across LA, all over the place, and I never see, African Americans in my dialysis centers. I never see, an African American, not at all. And I don't know what that is. I'm not saying that, there must be, but when you look at the numbers, of course, we are still a minority. I mean, you're not going to walk through, North Dakota and find, tons of African Americans in the dialysis units. But what you will see is that the numbers, the population compared to the number of people who are waiting for kidneys, have kidney disease. And so with that, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about, people keeping individuals on dialysis for monetary gain. Now, whether that's true or not, I haven't done the research. I have no one to corroborate that story. Has it been suggested by individuals? Absolutely. So how deep I'm going to go into that subject in the film, I'm not sure right now, because it would just be a rabbit hole, but it's definitely something that has been brought up. And I don't know if something like that will detract from the experience of the individuals. And that's largely what I want people to feel, is what it feels like, the experience, what people miss out on their day to day, and to literally be able to, when they leave the theater, have lived in their shoes and experience it, and leave thinking, hey, you know what? I really don't wish this on anyone. I really don't wish this on, anyone in my family, or I'm going to take care of my body. I want to make sure that all my family members are taken care of and be healthy as I can be. So if I need an organ, or if someone else in my family needs an organ, I can step up and be a donor. So I really want the experience is what will be key.
Yeah. Well, you know what? After this one's very successful, and I'm sure it's gonna be, because I can't wait to watch it. But maybe that could be an ideal for another docu-series or docu film or whatever, talking about the dark side of transplant. I just watched the movie, or it was on Netflix, called The God Committee, which there was a God Committee back, I think, in the 60s or something, and it actually determined who got dialysis and who got a transplant, and it was all determined on different factors, and I guess it was like on race, color, creed, monetary, what kind of job you had, and all this type of stuff. And man, it was, I mean, it's just scary to think that there was a board out there that actually judged you, not as a person, but by a bunch of, just numbers and categories and statistics, and unfortunately, I really, truly think that plays a huge part in transplant, whether people want to admit it or not. I believe it plays a role. I believe that it still is a factor, and I believe it's a huge factor. And I believe money's a part of it. I believe it's a part of a business, and I believe that nephrologists should be pushing their patient more toward talking with their family member and getting lined up with a donor a lot sooner than what they do, instead of just pushing them toward the dialysis centers. Hey, we need to get you ready for dialysis. No, you need to start toward, let's get you educated and find a donor. Let's get you out of dialysis. We don't need to go to dialysis. We need to try to get you a donor. But it's a whole nother story. Like you said, we could turn that into a whole nother movie for another time. But
Absolutely.
Erica,
I see Dr. Brookins in the comments. Hi.
oh yeah, Dr. Brookins in the house.
And she actually, when she was, and she's also a change maker, and when she was on the show, she dropped a huge gem, and listed in the comments if you remember, Sharika, because I can't remember the exact number, but when she was saying that you could refer yourself, well, Dr. Modlin said the patients are able to. I have the on day one appointment.
Yeah, she's talking about what I said on pushing people toward finding a donor.
Got you.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
she's one of the good. She's one of the good nephrologists that talks to her patients about getting a transplant early, and that's awesome.
And she also mentioned that you could actually start referring yourself. And I can't remember if it was like 20%. Sharika, can you drop a comment and remind us how soon? What is your kidney function have to be at when people can start actually referring themselves to get a transplant? And I think that is so critical because even the girl in my film, they were waiting for permission.
I did the same thing. I waited until they approached me. I'm talking about my nephrologist. They finally approached me and said, "Hey, we're gonna send you down to San Antonio to get you ready for transplant. You got to get screened and go down there for the big screenings. It was like a whole day long thing. But I didn't know as a patient that I could have actually went and done that myself. I could have been listed at multiple locations. A lot of patients think that they can. I'm already registered. I'm registered at this hospital. No, you can get registered at multiple locations, and knowledge is power. It really is. Oh, she said 20%. Yeah, 20%.
Yeah, I thought I remembered 20% because I remember being shocked. Yeah, talking about it before. Absolutely. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, knowledge is key. So
that people just don't know. I mean, that's a whole nother movie.
It really is. It really is. My wife chimed in, wanted to know the name of the documentary. It's called Let There Be Life. And babe, I'll show you. I'll share all that information with you, hon, when you get home. But I really appreciate you coming on. Maybe before we end the show, you can give someone out there what really to get from the whole experience.
You know what? You were what we say on Clubhouse in the Matrix. I didn't hear anything.
I was in the Matrix.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything that you said.
I cut out. I think I cut out for a minute.
Yeah, you were a little cut out. You cut out a little.
Oh, my bad.
Just a little bit. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. What I was saying is after everyone watches the documentary at the end, what do you want them to get when they leave there or after the experience? What do you want them to get from the documentary?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's, as I cut down and, heads are rolling, I'm like, out of here. I really want it to be about the experience, what people feel, the traumas, the economic traumas, the caregiver, what they experience, remembering to take the meds, everything from A to Z. It's the experience that I want people to connect with and really walk away thinking, I'm so glad that's not me. And if it were me, I would want to have an organ to save my life. And if that's the case, what can I do to make sure that I'm not in that position and make sure my family does not end up in that position? And the first thing is, taking care of yourself, getting your checkups, staying up to date with what's going on with your body, and absolutely just not ignoring signs, headaches and symptoms and things like that. It's really easy to keep pushing. I mean, we're all goal oriented. I mean, not all, but a lot of us are ambitious and trying to do so much, and self care is not on the map, and when we eat whatever, so I think we have to start thinking about how we can walk away and uplift the community to just be healthier and stronger, and so they can donate. And even another level is altruistic donation, the living donors donating, and understanding that the technology has come so far that it's not something that could limit life after you, if you're a living donor and you have to donate, or just donating altruistically, even if it isn't a family member. It's really something that I think people have to get used to, that idea, to just be able to step up and say, hey, I'll be an organ donor, just
exactly
on the clear blue sky, so with shows like yours, with shows like yours and people out trying to just normalize the conversation and give people hope.
Absolutely.
I really think that in the future, it won't be such a taboo topic that people have to run up against at the last minute when they're, really at the end stage.
Yeah.
Kidney disease.
Absolutely. We just got to make it cool. It's got to be trendy. It's got to be something that sticks around. It doesn't need to be a fad. It just needs to be something that sticks around, and it's a sense of normal. It's like, oh, okay, you're a donor. Yeah, me too. And that type of thing, where it's just commonplace. It's not something that we sit around and contemplate. Are you a donor? Should I be a donor? No. It's like a sense of normalcy. It's starting to become a normal thing in a way. But
that's true.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Any ideas when you're going to drop the documentary? Any ballpark time, or do you know exactly?
This year. It's going to be this year, come hell or high water. This year.
This year?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Trust me. It's coming out. Absolutely. September, the festival circuit starts in September. So look for, a premiere around then, September, October. And with that, fingers crossed.
We really didn't get to expand a lot on your show on Instagram, but you do host the Changemaker shows on Mondays. Who do you have maybe coming up that you maybe want to talk about, that may be coming on next, that you may want to just pop out there and say?
Well, coming up this Monday, we have a beauty pageant queen who she's now pursuing her goal to be a beauty queen, and she's a beauty pageant queen, and she's trying to become Miss of her. I'm not really well versed in the beauty pageant arena, but she's a beauty. She's an aspiring beauty queen who recently got a transplant, and she said when she won her last title, that organ donation was her platform, and she intends to continue using organ donation as her platform as she pursues her interest in pageantry. And then we'll have a transplant surgeon the following week, a lady transplant surgeon. We've had a man transplant surgeon. We're gonna have a few lady transplant surgeons coming up. So that's a great thing. And I wanted to shout out Dr. Callender, who was on the show. He, the granddaddy of transplant surgeons. He mentioned one thing that we should be looking at is the demographic in the elementary schools and the middle schools. And I think focusing on the kids is a good way to make this cool. He pointed out that we really should be targeting our outreach to the younger generation and starting there. And my outreach campaign with the film is going to be just that, targeting that demographic. So a lot of the modules that will be cut for the outreach campaign will be for health programs in schools and, middle, elementary, high schools, trying to get kids aware of what organ donation and kidney disease and all of these things are. So when they get to the DMV or the Department of Motor Vehicles or whatever it's called where you are, where you get your driver's license, have some inkling of what it is and why it's so important. And so I think, Dr. Callender made that point, and, that was, right. He hit the nail on the head as to where we should be. Because you can't teach, for lack of a better phrase, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So when we're trying to beat people over the head, about something that they've already convinced themselves of, it's a little harder, So if we're going to make true change, starting with the younger generation may be the way to go. So I encourage everyone to reach out in your communities to the younger kids, even, in middle school, start there and just start spreading the word and trying to get somehow engaged with the schools, whoever's in charge of school services, and do, some type of little talk, even if it's not a part of the curriculum per se. They have guest speakers, and trying to just get yourself in a school, and make that your mission to just go and talk in schools in your community. Do 10 schools this year, and you will have already, touched or raised awareness for that demographic. So it doesn't have to be a whole program that you roll out in school systems because, they're slow, the bureaucracy, boards of education. Oh my God. But, they always have guest speakers, and someone like you, Jonathan, who has a podcast and, multimedia, you could be teaching the kids not only about organ donation, but how to do this sort of thing, and have kids maybe even help with your podcast. So there's so many ways to get the kids involved. And I encourage everyone to expand your outreach to that population.
That sounds awesome. Great ways to great ideals to get the point across, and starting with the children. There's a scripture that talks about training up a child in the way they should go. When they grow old, they won't break away from it or go away from it. And I believe that you've got something great there. That if we teach them while they're young and get it embedded in them, then then the rest of their life, I think they're going to be okay, and it'll be a new way. And I think that would be great. And I think you got some great ideas there. And I definitely look forward to your new shows coming up on Instagram on Changemaker Mondays. And I really appreciate you coming on tonight. You've been an awesome guest. I know we ran over a little bit longer than what we expected.
My little guy is celebrating. He's in there with that iPad, just driving his Mario Kart. He couldn't be happier. So, it's fine. I told him, I said 30 minutes, but he's yeah.
She introduced me her son at the beginning of the show and backstage, and she has a beautiful son. So so I really look forward to this documentary. I hope you guys out there will go catch it. Can't wait for it to drop. I have it right here. I have the clip inside the interview, so you guys can definitely refer back to this interview and watch this. And I kind of feel like I need to have you back on the show. We could probably go another hour if we wanted to.
Thank you.
But great stuff. Appreciate everyone for showing up tonight and showing support and love for Hope with Jonathan. You guys are amazing. And really appreciate our guests tonight. You guys are just incredible. We can't do this show without you guys. And God bless you guys. Y'all stay safe out there. Remember to take care of your kidneys. I got one more comment here, and then we're going to jump off. Let's see who this is from. P. Williams. Hey, P. Williams, thanks for showing up. Enjoyed the topic tonight. Yes, we have the speaker back. We'll follow guest speaks on the Instagram. All right.
Thank you, P. Williams. Yes.
Thanks, P. Williams.
Follow.
thanks, appreciate it. And shout out to my wife, says great podcast. So thanks again, Hunt, for support always. And again, to Dr. Brookins.
Oh, Dr. Brookins, Dr. Brookins in the house.
I believe it's remote renal care, I believe is what she has. And amazing stuff. I'll have her on the show in February. So looking forward to have her on the show. And another incredible influencer. So appreciate your support. But hey, guys, again, appreciate all the support for the show. We're going to run for now.
Hey guys, this is Jonathan, the host of the Hope with Jonathan podcast. And hey guys, Hope with Jonathan now has a website, www.hopewithjonathan.com, where you can go over and find out where to follow us on all of our social media links, our podcast, our YouTube channel, and much more. Again, guys, for more information on Hope with Jonathan, you can go to www.hopewithjonathan.com.
Hey guys, have you checked out Kidney Conversations, a new series brought to you by host Hope with Jonathan and KWM's Kidney Warrior merch, Kyle Hawkins from Toronto, Canada. Yes, it's a brand new series brought to you by us for you as the kidney patient. We're trying to inform, educate, and inspire by sharing and spreading awareness for kidney disease, dialysis, kidney failure, transplant, organ donation, and so much more. This is a brand new series, guys, brought to you by Hope with Jonathan and Kidney Warrior merch. What we're going to do is post weekly on our pages across social media. Right now it's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then on Friday, we'll be releasing an informative video over on Hope with Jonathan. Check it out, guys. kidneyconversations.info.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in to the Hope with Jonathan podcast. I really hope you guys enjoyed that awesome podcast with Erica Nikolic. Man, what an incredible advocate. And I really enjoyed her, really enjoyed being on her show as well with Changemakers over there on Instagram. And if you guys aren't already following her over there on Instagram, please check her out over there. And again, guys, we really hope that you guys will support us over on YouTube. If you haven't already subscribed to us, go check us out. Go check out what we're doing over there on YouTube. We could really use your support. Right now, we're sitting around 289 subscribers. We'd like to push that closer, as close as we can get to 1,000. And that is our goal at this point, is try to reach 1,000 subscribers. We kind of feel like with that kind of support that we're really getting the word out there about kidney disease and getting the word out there for people's stories who are in need of a kidney donor. And so if you guys would please support us over there on YouTube, it would really, really, I'd really appreciate it. It would help us out so much. Help continue to push us out there in the algorithm. I think on the next level, once we reach 300 subscribers, we'll go into another tier of the algorithm on YouTube, and we'll be pushed out into the algorithm a little bit more, where others would still continue to be able to see us a lot broader, on a broader scan. But hey, guys, listen, I really appreciate your support. You can check us out, hopewithjonathan.com. Follow us, subscribe, like all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, you name it, we're on it. Guys, go check us out. Again, guys, we really appreciate it. God bless you guys. Stay safe out there. Remember to take care of your kidneys. God bless. This is Jonathan.